Welcome, my fearless friends that are on here and that are watching afterwards on the replay. Those of you that don't know how it works, Camp Gambini has gone to its own community, and we have expanded what we are bringing to you. And that way, anytime you want, you'll have a library of things that you can just go into, almost like podcasts, but you're going to get to be in our own community. You can post and get to know each other in there. I'm blown away. We actually have quite a few people that have already joined. And Elle, are you going to let people in for me?
I already just did it.
Okay, awesome. My default was to try to do that and talk.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you don't need to do that. It's fine. I've got it. It's okay.
Thank you. So anyway, I'm super excited. And this was the first one to start in our monthly. So you got all of you guys that have not, maybe you didn't hear about it. The Lord had me do the first fearless challenge with the first fearless experience, not a challenge. And it was called Breakthrough Fear. And that was actually 3 entire weeks. I said months in my video. It was not months. Welcome, Dr. Tony. Woo-hoo.
She can't hear you yet because she's still connecting to audio. You do that a lot.
I was just thinking the same thing.
She'll see it later. No.
She can hear you now. Now she can hear you.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting schooled. This is what it's like here, guys. It's friends. We do have some of our breakthrough group coaching team on here because I guess they just can't get enough. And we were able to do it for 3 whole weeks. I don't know why I keep saying 3 whole months, but it was 3 whole weeks. And I believe it ended up 8 sessions. Those are all inside the community. So we had some amazing guest speakers. It was just all about breaking through fear. So I didn't really know what the next step was. And actually, this is what we're going to talk about today. I have my great friend, Craig, and I are dear friends. We work in business together. He's my coach. I'm probably his coach. It's like, so I thought no one better to bring on for the first official monthly fearless experience, but my dear friend, Craig. Those of you that are familiar with breakthrough group coaching and some of the things, some of you all know Craig, and we just got to launch his first intensive, and in it, I discovered my superhero name, and I will tell you that in a little bit. But I wanted to just let you know that we will be doing this once a month, the second Wednesday. And so honestly, I kind of didn't realize it was only going to be 11 days from the time I ended when the Lord told me to do this. And so I realized on Saturday, after helping out Craig with his, I was so honored to kind of monitor and be on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's this Wednesday. Why was I thinking it was the next Wednesday? And in my head, I thought maybe I wouldn't do it. And then I thought, nope, God, you said to do it the 14th. So we're just going to go for it. I sent Craig a message like, oh my gosh, I hope you'll be my guest because I want you to be my guest. And if I can't get a guest, then I don't know. Anyway, so welcome to the very first one. And then I also want to let you know we have a weekly programs that we do. So we are moving them all to Zoom. They used to be on my page, but Motivational Monday and Throwdown Prayer Thursday will be 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can do all the other math in between. Normally, if you've got those two, you can figure it out. It will be in the same Zoom link. So if you guys got in here, a couple people, I did send the Zoom link just to make sure you got on here because I didn't have my new link up to join the community, but we will make sure to post that in here. Elle, if you could post that in here, maybe at the end, that way anyone that did just get the Zoom link and you're not in the community, we want to make sure you get in the community because that's where all the replays are. So the whole heart behind this is an amazing place that you can just have resources and community. And the best way that I could do this, so you could find all the replays. Everything would be really easy. Is we moved it to Connecting the Dots website, and we have a very special place just there. So without further ado, we are going to launch our first monthly Fearless experience. And I want to welcome Craig. And Craig, what are we calling this again? I don't know why I just blanked.
Jump into the unknown.
Yes, the topic today is that I think sometimes brings on some whole new areas of fear, where today was a perfect example for me. I'm like, okay, let's go. Don't have it all. Let's just move through it the next day and let's make it happen. That's the unknown when you haven't done it before. So I told Craig I wanted to take it away, but we're going to do this a little different, because those of you that know Craig and I, we just feel like the Lord bounces things off of each other really well. And we actually have been talking about this topic offline, and we both feel like the Lord was kind of getting us pieces together. So it will be a little different. We'll probably be like, you guys will get to listen in, like we're having a little coffee chat a little bit, and then bring you guys all into the conversation. Welcome, Tracy Joy. I may not have said hi to you. So Craig, introduce yourself for any person that is watching the replay, and then let's just get this conversation started. And it's all around helping give you guys some equipment, guys, because we want you. My favorite saying is, let's kick fear in the face. And so I want to get, which I know that's a bit aggressive. But I think that we want to be aware of it when we're out of peace and what that looks like. And that I only teach on things that have been breakthroughs for me. The Holy Spirit has brought me through, and it may be hard for a lot of people to imagine, but I pretty much, my normal was anxiety. I really didn't know that I always was anxious. I always was worried what other people would think. I mean, it really was my normal. So the Lord began to start taking me on a journey that moved me, and I know Craig is similar, to start to identify what some of these triggers look like, whether it's unbelief, whether it's fear, all of these things. And so it was my personal journey with the Holy Spirit where this came out about 4 years ago. I had no clue that the Lord was setting me up, that I would then be teaching on this and doing a whole coaching with it. But it's super important that we bring just great free stuff, so that at times when maybe you can't participate in anything else I'm doing, I want people to still be able to just get filled up with like a wonderful cup of hot tea or hot chocolate or cold tea, because it's getting towards summertime. So this is my
giant liter thing of coffee.
Yes. So Craig, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you for those that don't know? And you know, I always love you to share one fun fact that maybe no one would know.
And a fun fact, just throwing
Yeah.
curveballs left and right. All right, yeah, let me introduce myself and we'll jump in. But yeah, my name, for anyone who hasn't met me, is Craig. I have worked in the film industry for the last, 15, 16 years. But because of what we're going to talk about today and my journey with God, I am the chief creative officer of Rogue Motion, my video production company, but I'm also the Kingdom Vision architect of The Brain Unstuck, which is my platform to help Christians, especially creatives, entrepreneurs, business owners, just connect with God and his heart in a completely new way and unlock new ways of dreaming and moving forward in the way he has called us to be versus what we think we should be. And so it's been an amazing journey, jumping into the unknown and going through just an amazing adventure the last several years with God, and to be able to even look back at like some journals and see the transformation he's brought me through personally and spiritually and emotionally and mentally, and even with my family. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And a fun fact is, I think I've already shared I've swam with dolphins. I don't know if that counts. It might count because I haven't shared it with this group. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. So I'm going to go with that. So, yes, I have had the opportunity to swim with dolphins, both in the wild and in a pool.
Wow. That is so awesome. And did you say you have two adorable girls and
Yeah,
an
I have a
amazing
wonderful
wife?
wife, two little kids who are have enough imagination for the world. It's fantastic. Yeah, and they are hard-headed like their dad, and super creative and adventurous, and yeah, and man, full of Holy Spirit powers that I wish I understood when I was a kid. They're pretty amazing.
Yes.
And then I have my awesome wife who's in the middle of writing her book and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, we're a busy family.
Yeah. I like to call it power couple for Jesus. They're very and I love them to death, and I'm excited. I'm excited I'm gonna get to see you guys in person, I think in a couple months. So yay! I know, don't be jealous, Al. So let's get talking. And thank you, Tracy. I saw your sweet message in between. So you said I look glowing. So I felt like the Lord said I wanted to highlight that one thing. So anybody that knows Craig, this is why I have my superhero mug today. He just loves, I love his imagination and his excitement over all of those things. And so I was really his beta tester on being the main character and of your story and all the other things. And he always shares about superheroes. And he launched his first intensive, and I was so honored to be part of it and cheer him on, because I just know this is the beginning of so much more. And at the end, he's going to share a few things. But with it, it was around, what is your superhero name? So a day or so before, I felt like the Lord said, hey, Craig, I think I'm supposed to dress up like my superhero, which I didn't even know what it was. Well, lo and behold, the night before, like literally midnight, probably, I couldn't find this. He told me what to wear. If anybody's on my Facebook page, you'll see I wore it like a cape, and I had this as but today it's bright and it's part of who I am. I already knew God said, Jodi, what do you call me, God? He said, Joyful Bridge to Breakthrough. But my superhero name is Joy Fearless. And I was like, oh, like the fearless challenges. Because people started to say, Jodi, that's kind of what you're known for, is kind of, sometimes I could be a little tough, like, come on, got to break through. And I didn't even think of myself as fearless, to be honest with you, because it doesn't feel fearless. When I'm going through it, it feels the opposite, with God kind of helping push me through. But so this is what it is, and it's who I am. I'm colorful, but these two pieces, I kind of feel like Wonder Woman. She always had normally her rope, and she had her little thing. So this is from my grandma, what grandma has tie-dye, but my grandma did. My grandma was alive till she was 95, and this was hers at 95. And so it's always, I call it my Rocky bandana, like get back up. But now God's told me it's part of my Joy Fearless. So sometimes if you see this, or you see this, or you see the colors, you'll know that I am tapping into choosing to be Joy Fearless, the superhero that God has made me. So I just wanted to share that, because Craig helped cap that open for a lot of us in his intensive, and we all call each other the names now and things. So I just thought, when Tracy said that, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to go there, but I'm going to share that. So now, how do we move forward, Craig?
Let me open with a dream that I had on Monday, and then it'll launch us into just kind of discussing what we'll talk about. But I had this dream while I was spending some morning time with God, where a buddy of mine and it was just picture in your head like some nighttime, serene, super dark. The only light that's around are like the stars in the sky. There's no moon or anything. It's just bright stars in the sky, and that's the only light that we have. And we're standing on what kind of feels like this cliff, like this precipice that we're standing and looking down at. And what we're looking down at is just kind of black. You know, it's almost like nothingness. And it just feels like if you jump off and fall, you'll just be falling forever. And a bunch of people keep coming up and looking at this cliff, and then they get so afraid that they turn and run, or they come up with excuses on why they actually misheard from God to even come to this place. And so a bunch of this keeps happening, and we keep watching all these people do this, and we keep looking at it, but we're more of like amazed by it, and we're just like, we're curious by it. And then we just get this invitation from Jesus to jump, and he just says, I'm inviting you to the unknown. And so we kind of look at each other, and we just kind of like one of those things where you just kind of shrug and go, okay. And we jump in. And as we jump into what seems like this endless abyss, we actually hit the surface of water, and we pass through it. And as we pass through it, the world almost flips upside down. And now we're in this place where we can breathe in a place where people didn't think we could, and we can operate in a place that people were afraid to go. And we're able, almost like Aquaman, to shoot around the water and like explore all of these places. And we're just like, what is this place? There's so much stuff that's been untouched. And Jesus was just like, this is the unknown. This is an area where we keep inviting people, and people keep turning around. And we found, like, it sounds a little morbid, but we found a few people like floating in different places, just almost dead. And we were like, oh, people have been here before. And he said, yes, but when people came here, they forgot how to breathe because they lost sight of me, and they were only focused on the fear around them. And so they had to leave this place, and that's the shell of themselves they left behind. And so we got to, and we had like full freedom to explore this place, and he was with us. And he's like, it was like we were in like among the stars, but in like this like watery substance. It was really cool. And so out of that, like we got to just go around and play and dream with him and do all of this stuff that he's put on our hearts, just because we were willing to jump into this place and just keep our eyes on him. And so that's when, like, I saw your message saying like, we should, will you be my guest? And then that was the first thing that popped up, and I was like, okay, that's what we can talk about, is jumping into the unknown.
Wow. Wow. So I just am wondering, that is, I love that, because it kind of ties in something that the Lord used to always show me, which was I knew and recognized when I was at the edge of this cliff, and I'd be like, I don't want to jump. And all of a sudden he said, I have a big bouncy house hand. You can't see it, but all you have to do is step, and you're going to jump right into it. I've got you. I got you, girl. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is part of the picture I get when you said that. And I don't know if it was you or someone else that the Lord had showed. I think it was you. Was it that you were the first? We're not the first one that God asked, but we're the first one.
Yeah, we're not his first choice, but we're the first yes.
And that reminded me of the vision and the dream that you just had, Craig, because like the shell of them, I thought, wow, that's like a real visual of, oh my gosh, they weren't ready. So that you see that shell part of them there because they went back. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about, what does that look like? And then what are some things that we have found? Maybe you can give me an example of you in the midst of choosing to take that jump, and then not leave and go back. Which is,
use
yeah.
you and I as the example, because we met around the same time. I was first kind of jumping into this. And now I'm at a new area where I'm jumping into something completely unknown, luckily with another friend who is such a dreamer and creative when it comes to stuff with God. But we met around the time God was moving me from Southern California to Central Oregon, which was completely separated from the industry that I have been working in pretty much my entire adult life. And so it was like this weird separation of like moving to here and stepping away from a lot of the stuff that I was surrounded with there, as well as joining like these different like God-led entrepreneurial groups, which I'd never experienced before. Like I had no idea God was the God of business. Like that was something completely new to me. And so as I was exploring that, God just started putting on my heart, like, hey, I need you to start being in front of the camera. And I want you to reach out and start speaking to people and just interview them and then put it on YouTube. And so my initial thought was like, you're insane. Like, I will, how about I just ask them to record themselves or I don't show myself and I just ask them questions and I'll cut it together. And he's like, no, I need you to just sit in front of the camera and just reach out to these people you don't know very well and just interview them. And so I just said, okay, I'll do it and I'll see where this goes. And so I reached out to a bunch of people and it was awesome. I met like 13 or 14 people I would have never have normally talked to, including you were on one of the episodes. But it
Yeah.
was like through this process, like in my mind, as I was going through it, I was like, okay, cool. So we're going to start a YouTube channel. I can see where the monetization comes in. Okay, I can see where this is going. If it gets bigger, I can do this, this. And I started taking the unknown and putting my own spin on it, thinking this is where God's taking me rather than fully, like, he didn't fully reveal everything to me. He just told me to do it and just said, wait. And so in my mind, I just started filling in the blanks. And so once he told me to stop doing that, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, people are liking it. It's actually been a lot of fun. And he's like, it's not for now. Like, I just needed you to do that. And it turns out everyone that I had talked to, I was then able to connect with and make a relationship with. And then that led to them reaching out to me and saying, hey, we're having this like event, we're having this retreat, we're having this, whatever it is, this conference, can you be a part of it?
Yeah.
And it opened up these doors for me to then go and start speaking to other groups of people I wouldn't have been connected with. And then I'm doing all of this stuff. And then in the midst of that, you and I connected in Release Heaven, and he made me step out of my comfort zone again and said, hey, reach out to her and ask if she wants to do like this bargain thing. And I was like,
Yeah, what do we call that? Is it barter?
barter.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
even know
right.
why that conversation came up in Release Heaven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, all right, I'll ask her if she wants to do a barter system. I don't know what we'll be trading, but we'll trade something. And then that's what sparked our conversation into starting to build what is now connecting the dots and bridges to breakthrough. But in the beginning, started out as, well, but I'm like, I'm Jodi the
I didn't
financial
really
advisor.
know I was that, but saying that, but that is definitely looking back now what I was doing and what Craig was able to come alongside and see. And I was just had a flash, Craig, because so we did meet from my mutual friend Christina Kimball, which that's how I even Dr. Tony was mentoring Craig and Christine at the same time, and Craig was like the only guy. And but I still
Par for the course.
remember, yeah, but I loved it. I remember there was something, and I just share this because I felt like the Lord was saying sometimes it, like you don't the dream that you had, Craig, you said you were looking and you saw people and they didn't even realize why they were being drawn to the edge. So like they're like, oh shoot, this is like you're on an adventure and you're like, oh, this is leading to the unknown. Like if you can imagine a cliff and all of a sudden you're like, well, what? Like and so in that dream that you just shared, I love that visual of you watching other people do that, because I think you don't normally know all the little steps. So I had just said yes to being in Christina's she did a business and kind of business in heaven event. I forget exactly what she called it, but it was a conference. And she asked me, I thought I was just going to be a speaker. And then she's like, I'm like, who are the other speakers? She's like, just you. I'm like, what? And I didn't know at the time because she knew she didn't quite, God was using me even in that moment to break somebody else through that I didn't really know that's what he was doing, and break through myself. But I literally had to do this event. And this is when Craig met me. I remember I was like, I ended up going on with Princess Leia Benz, and like it was a jean jacket and kind of like a dress. This is actually not a dress, but like this, right? Which is very not who Jodi, the financial advisor, would be. It was just, there's a dress code. Every office I've ever worked in, wearing something like this would be like, people would be like, what is wrong with you? Did Jodi lose her mind? So this is really who I am, but I always had to shrink it back. So I didn't realize that God was taking me through this. You're not just Jodi, the financial advisor, because that's the only person I knew. Like I was Jodi in church and ministry, and then financial advisor. Like, what? You're going to blend it all together? And so I still remember this visual, Craig, that one of the, I don't think this is you were already in Oregon when we had the conversation about bartering, but I didn't quite realize what was going on, but Craig got on and he was in his moving van. Do you remember that? You were driving. And it was bouncing, and I was so like, I think that's when I'm like, okay, I like this guy. He doesn't even care. He's in his moving van, but he wants to be on and part of what God is. He's so hungry to be part of business and kingdom and everything, that here he is in his van, like, you know, the U-Haul van. It was hilarious. Do you remember that?
I remember that. I remember like, why is this van so loud? Like someone would go to talk and it would just be like, brrr. It's like, what? But yeah, I remember that. Oh man. But it's crazy because if neither of us jumped into that and didn't start exploring that area, we wouldn't have the stuff we have now, which is crazy to think about. Like, especially last year when like COVID hit and like everyone, like the world stopped, like my industry completely stopped. And if that's where like my everything was, you know, then I would have been just screwed. Like that would have been terrible. But instead, I was able to really lean on God in a new way that I haven't done before and just stretch and then start building what is now the Brain Unstuck. And then also help like go through your beta stuff and really focus on, okay, God, what's on your heart for Jodi and this? And then we got to work together. And then it was great to see from our initial conversation. I remember being at the gym and talking to you, and I don't know if you were physically saying it or if I was just hearing like spiritually this, but like I remember while we were talking and it was like, yeah, but how do I offer that? Because you know, the finance part. And I was thinking like, why does she keep mentioning the finance part? Like that's part, but that's not all. Like, why do you keep mentioning that? And like I remember like seeing like this picture of like you like holding on to like this financial part of you and like not letting that go. And I just remember like in that moment, I even mentioned, I was like, so why is that like a big part of who you keep saying you are? And then as I said that, in me it broke because I kept hearing myself say, yeah, but I make film and TV stuff and I do commercials. Like, what do you mean you want me to speak to people about Jesus? Like that doesn't make sense. And like I just like, it was like we were going through the same thing at the same time, and we were able to help each other break that part of ourselves off, so then God could bring us full circle. And then once we came back to those areas that we originally were at, we now had him filling in that part of our identity versus that being a part of our identity. So then we were able to stand in that area with like a new lens and new authority.
Oh yeah, and I totally like it, and I think Christina was going through a similar thing, and so it's just amazing how God brings you in seasons and then out of seasons. But I totally remember that, and it's funny how, I mean, when you think of sneaky Jehovah, like we literally we thought we were going to barter what we were currently both in our profession. So I thought I was going to do financial planning for him, and I'm like, yeah, I totally need some help with like some videos and some things. I had no clue all the additional parts that the Lord was going to take me out into the unknown. but how good is he? And I hope that you even see this wherever you're at, that he's always going to bring people if you say yes. Like I remember I immediately, I thought the same thing when we talked about the bartering. I felt like, oh my gosh, I hung up, and that I love hearing both sides of our story because it shows how God moves. So I remember hanging up, and I'm a little bolder, so normally I'd just be like, hey, and the Lord goes, no. And I remember okay, well, I thought you said to do this. He goes, no, wait for him to reach out to you. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. And so I did that, and I reached out to he reached out to me, and like really fast. Like I remember it was just the obedience of, I knew I heard him say that we were supposed to barter, but then having a deeper conversation with him and hearing, hold up. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I don't do wait well. I like to say, I love yes, I love no. The wait is like anybody else like me, like the not yet. Okay, I'm not the only one, but because and I think it's important to realize that, because even that is going into the unknown of going, I'm trusting you, God. I'm trusting you, like, okay, you just said it. Let me help you along and reach out to this person. And what I didn't know was my obedience of waiting was Craig reaching out. He never does it. And so even when I know there were times where both of us would be like, I do not like that you're pushing, because we were pushing each other at the same time. So we each had our own coaching sessions every single week. I would be Coach Jodi to Craig, and then Craig would be Coach Craig to Jodi. So there were times where I was pushing him, and we still do it. Actually, this is still an ongoing thing. It's crazy almost to imagine not having him as part of my my team, and probably because we're really part of each other's team and support. And I was in a season where I didn't have I didn't have an office anymore. I was working from home. I had no support, and I had been crying out, God, I want support. Little did I think God would bring a filmmaker as the person to help me. Like that's God. Like, so I encourage you, even if you think we have nothing in common, I don't know what God's doing, but I also remember that moment, Craig. And I was so grateful that God gave us each grace to speak into each other's lives. So even though I didn't like it whatsoever, I remember that. I'm like, I didn't really know that was the issue. And I would hear myself, but how can I do that and be a financial advisor? And here's the thing, there was a true obstacle, because I did have my financial investment firm involved, and normally you have to get everything approved. But what magically happened in that December was they were like, you know what, Jodi, I think you need to do what they call DBA, doing business elsewhere, and an outside business activity in the financial world. And they go, that way you're not going to have anything approved. I mean, it took all my handcuffs off. But so there was real things going on that in my head, I couldn't even imagine me being able to do. I thought that my coaching was going to be connected to my financial advising. So I just encourage you with that. Like, it's hard to even remember that, right, Craig?
Oh, yeah. Do you remember back in like 2019 when I was like, I really feel like God is going to open up a new door for financial advising, and it's not going to look the way it looks now, and you're going to be able to step into that as part of your business. But I was like, it's not during this time. Do you remember that?
I do. And I also remember that the Lord kept showing me like on Little House on the Prairie, those covered wagons. He kept showing me that. And at the time, my pastors were even talking about pioneering. And I think I feel like why this is being brought up right now is because there may not be a template for where God's taking you right now. So I am kind of a why girl, and I'm very visual. Sometimes I'm a knower in hearing God's voice, and sometimes I see flashes of pictures and things. So I realize I like a light unto my path. so I can see clearly, oh, this is what it looks like. Well, I was moving into a whole new season of what I call Kairos moment, lamp unto your feet, which means you're not going to see anything else. Well, there was nothing else that looked like it. Like, I'm like, there's no financial advisor I know that is a coach. Like, that's like it's really looked down upon. It's like, you don't do that. There are tons of obstacles. I really didn't give God credit for what he could do. what he was going to do. And so it was so amazing to have Craig keep speaking that, because I couldn't imagine it. But when he would say it, as much as I didn't like it, because I'd be like, but. So if you're saying that, friends, in any area, and right now the Holy Spirit's kind of prompting you, oh shoot, in this one area, I keep going, but it's not possible. But I haven't seen it. I will just tell you, normally God brings people that are forerunners and pioneers around me, because I am one. So it's very possible, just like Craig, like if he told all his film buddies, they'd be like, what, dude? What are you doing? Yeah, why would you even do that? Because we were both in industries where we made really good money. I mean, it's a little different when God's calling you. So I just kept wanting to go back to those good old days, which were not the good old days. They were back Egypt, really, but they weren't the good old days, but I thought they were the good old days. And so I feel something on that, Craig. So I want to pause and let you speak to that.
Yeah, I like what you said, where there's no blueprint for what he was sending you to. And I think that happens a lot with everyone, because if there is no competition in the kingdom, right? And we can work alongside someone who on paper is doing what we're doing, but we can still work alongside and send people to them and have no jealousy. It's because God makes everything we're doing unique in our own way. So there's a bunch of other coaches who will tell people about storied life, but I know that what he's given me is a very unique perspective to what they would be doing. And so for me, when other people start talking about that, I get excited. I'm like, oh, like there's another kingdom person who's doing that? Like, all right, cool. I'm not crazy. And like, that's awesome, because I reach certain people, they reach certain people. But it's kind of like with the YouTube thing. Like if we go through the unknown and we're walking around with a lamp and we can't see more than 3 feet in front of us, if we try to fill in the blanks of what's around us, we're going to miss out on everything God has for us in that journey. And thank goodness he'll rectify that, obviously, just like with when I was like, oh yeah, I'll do YouTube, and that makes sense because I've done that before and I've helped build these things dozens of times. But then when he's like, stop, I knew it was something completely different. And so then I was able to pivot with him rather than holding on to that and being like, this is what I want it to be. And this is what I see it being. And he's like, no, I see it being something so much more. And so to be able to just walk in that, and when something changes and pivots and shifts, to be able just to hold on to him rather than hold on to that thing, and to let him then take us through that process. Because if I didn't go through that process, I wouldn't have known how much my identity was rooted in what I was doing versus who I was serving. And so, yeah, there's that moment in those processes where we just have to let go and just hold on to whatever heaven and whatever God has in store. Because if we don't, like, other people miss out. Like you wouldn't have, like, talk about being like super exhorter, like you have multiple like communities and groups, and you do all these group calls, and like it lights you up and you're so excited. And everyone who's connected to you wouldn't have that if you would only have said, well, but I'm financial advisor, Jodi, and I just kind of do this stuff at church. Or if I was like, yeah, I'll just teach Christians how to make great videos and then move on. And like, I wouldn't be able to release the words God's put inside of me with other people. And so I would just be talking to people about video, and that would be limiting, and other people wouldn't have the impacts they would have or experience God the way they would have had if I didn't show up how he wanted me to.
And that's so good, because what also just came to my mind, Craig, and I want to paint a picture for people of what those moments kind of feel like and look like, because I think that I can identify it when I'm coaching other people really clearly, but it's a little like, it just like you said, you can identify, oh, I'm a financial advisor. How can I do that? But it took me, and I think everybody is this way. It takes us a little bit to realize it. And so, that's our hope today, is to start to get that going. So start to think of questions you have, because we're going to move over to questions in a minute. But I had tried to do it with the church people before. I say church people, but my heart was really to help the kingdom of God and free them. And I remember showing up and giving all my free time, which other people pay me a lot of money for, and people wouldn't even show up and they wouldn't even change it. So I thought, so the Lord, when that season of my practice, he opened favor in the business world and business networking, all local, and volunteer on Junior League. Like everything was very business, and those were all the clients for me, and I definitely impacted them. So I think why I couldn't even get my head around it was the only thing I could think of was Dave Ramsey. And okay, Dave is great. Dave is great, but I have a different heart and area of things and vision with some things. And so I would get the people that didn't click with Dave, and it didn't fully move forward. And that's all I'll say with that. So I thought that what God was calling me into at that moment was more of a Dave Ramsey type of thing, and to make videos and to make all of it, but it would be really speaking in to helping break people through in the financial side. Well, he had a really funny sense of humor, the Holy Spirit did, because, and so wonderfully, sneaky Jehovah, he set up people that could see that in me and that I trusted, and I gave the favor to speak into my life. Because I still remember the time I went up and visited Craig and Hannah, and he pulled out this thing on his laptop, and I'm like, he's like, you're a brand and here's all the things. I'm like, what? I didn't think you could have more than one business, Craig. What are you talking about? So God knew, he knew that he put me with somebody that knew what it looked like. He knew that he put me with somebody that could help paint the picture. I mean, he produces and directs films. He can help produce and direct and paint a picture and tell a story for me to get a grasp, right? And I remember thinking, what do you mean I'm a brand? I don't even know what the heck a brand is. And I mean, there's a little age gap there. He's about 13 years younger than me, I think, or so. Yeah, maybe 14 years, which is fabulous. That, I mean, even that, like, I might be like, oh, he's a millennial and I'm a Gen Xer, he won't get me. But what I really think all of these things God shows is, if you press into the unknown, you never know what he's going to do. And it is really uncomfortable. And it's trusting God in a deeper level than ever before. But I'm so grateful that God set me up. Sneaky Jehovah set me up, because it would never be, not only that, but nobody had an idea what the pandemic was. And so we were doing all this in 2019, and we're moving over, about ready to launch everything in March, and everything shifts. So him and I were both working on our things at the same time, having no clue what the Lord was doing in the midst of this. And it actually gave us, because we'd already been pushing towards it, it was like we weren't scared at all. We're like, hey, we've already been in the pandemic, kind of. We've already been in the unknown world. And so it literally opened up an opportunity for, it still was unknown. It was still uncomfortable to keep going on and share your heart in a new way. But I can look back now in 2019 and June, all these different things, when I met Craig, all these things, and see what he was lining things up that I couldn't see past the 2 to 3 steps. And so Craig, I want you to give us, I feel like you have a good visual to be able to tell people, so they can start to identify when they're in that moment, and they can, because it looks different. A lot of times the Lord speaks to you, and I do believe that he brings people to lock arms with you and to help you and to lift you up, because God is in us and works through us.
Well, I know for me, like one example would be like when Jodi said she came up and visited my wife and I, And then God just showed me like this outline, and I'm like, oh, well, here it is. Like, this is what it looks like. Like, why are you fighting me on this? This is what it is. But even in that, Jodi was like, you're good at this. You should do this for other people. And there's two things that happened simultaneously. One was, no, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. This is not. Remember that? I was like, in a nicer way, I think, but I was like, no, like,
It may not have been. Your favorite word is no, this is gross, or
yeah,
this is awful.
that sounds terrible. I remember saying that. I'm like, that sounds awful. I was like, what do you mean? Help other people with this. But then on the other, like the side, like the thing that happened simultaneously was inside. I just heard like this thing or felt this thing where I was just like, explore that. Or like it was like this like hitting, because people can tell us things about us like, oh, like you'd be a good pastor, and you're like, no, like that in all levels is not what, no, sorry, like I can tell you without a doubt, no. But there's things where like when you said that to me, and I was like, when that happened, when I had two things, like my immediate external was like, no, that sounds awful, but inside I was like, you need to explore that. Like, and like it was like this like light bulb that went off, and I was like, oh, okay, well, what does that look like? And then when God was like, I want you to serve Christians, 'cause I've worked in the marketplace my whole life, and I'm like, no, like that doesn't make sense either. Like for all of these reasons, and I've tried to help churches and nonprofits, and like I've been burned before, and like here's how Christians usually act, and I'm like, I'd much rather just serve the marketplace. I'll bring them you in different ways. And he's like, no, I need you to help my people in this way. And so usually if you have that kind of just like conflict where your immediate is like, no, no, I'm not doing it. But then inside you're like, oh, there's something on that. Like, why am I fighting that? And then sit with God and ask him, like, all right, Dad, like what part of that is actually from you? Like what part of me is fighting that? Why am I fighting it? And it makes me think of like, I love documentaries, I love interviewing people, I love being able to sit down and like just pull stuff out of people. And every time I've been able to sit down and interview someone, they walk away literally like, I've never shared any of that before, or I've never, this is the best interview ever. Like and not to, I'm not like boasting myself up like I'm this great documentarian. Like I love that connection, and I've always been able to do that, and I've always done that well. And so when I kept bringing it up, like you were relentless about it in a good way, then you're like, no, you really need to help people with that. And like when you started explaining why, and you're like, you're really good at asking questions and pulling stuff out of people, like it connected this moment where I was like, oh, like that's something I actually really love to do. Like I love just having a conversation with someone and asking a bunch of questions that like I just feel are relevant in the moment, and it just pulls out this stuff. And I was like, I can do that if that's what I'm supposed to do to help people. And then I started exploring like that what's in your hand thing, and it's like, okay, here's the skills and stuff I've been building up over the years, and this is what God's been training me in. And like, okay, God, here's all this stuff, show me what this looks like, and what am I missing? And he just laid out this thing. He's like, you keep putting this all under filmmaking, but all of it translates to all of this stuff over here in bigger ways. So when you can sit with God and just be like, God, I know I'm supposed to do something else, or there's something else you have for me, but what does that look like? What am I currently carrying that you want me to then carry to somewhere else? And so then I was able to sit with him and just go, okay, here I can do boop, 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 boop. And then that thing I initially started saying, like, no way, that's terrible. That is absolutely awful. I'm not doing that. You're like, let's just focus on yourself. Like, I didn't want to look in the mirror. And so when I was able to do that, it like connected. And then all of a sudden, that like no way turned into, okay, let's explore the possibilities of what this actually looks like. Because it's not like he wants me to do something I'm going to resent and hate doing. Like where are you in this, so I can find the joy in what you're calling me to do? And so if you find yourself in like those moments where you're like immediately reject something, or you're afraid, you're like, that's completely not in my wheelhouse, that doesn't belong. But if you inside have this just kind of little ping, sit with God and ask him, what part of that I'm fighting is actually from you, and what do you want me to do with it? And then you can start just following the little breadcrumbs of what he takes you on, because it turns out to be awesome. Like it definitely is not easy, but it is awesome.
Yeah. And I remember that moment, Craig, because I was the one saying, telling you, well, but you're so, or like, I didn't really know what a filmmaker and all the things do, but he has like, it's not just the creative. Like, I thought it was just the creative side, but they have to be unbelievably organized and strategic with everything. And so he was, I think the part he didn't love was he's like, I don't want to teach people. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I feel like this is like fingernails on a chalkboard. Like, I knew God gave him grace to help me, but I think he was thinking, no. And I remember I was coaching him and Hannah, I think we were on Zoom, and Hannah was also doing her blog at the time and moving forward. And she was like, yeah, I know, Craig, you're really good at it. But Craig be like, I don't want to. And she came up with the name even. She's like, because I said, you don't understand. Like, it's like my brain is like, I don't think I said brain, but I'm like, it's like there's a fog and I can't see through. And you see it, Craig. And even though I know it probably drives you crazy to show it to me and hand show it to me, the way you do it is like no one else. I've follow different things and they go, just read this, do this. And I'm a hands-on person. And because he was a hands-on person, he'd go, oh yeah, hold on, let me share my screen. I've never done Zoom. I think the first time I got my Zoom account was because Craig's like, okay, you can do Zoom yourself. You could do a Zoom account. I can remember he was like, okay, I think he even did my first Zoom because I couldn't even figure out how to do it. But so there were all these things, but he had the patience for me. And I'm like, I know you don't really want to, it just sounds fun to do the other part, but I'm telling you, there is something in it. And I remember that. And I remember Hannah naming it, and you did not love it. And I was at all. You're like, I do not want to do what? I don't want to help people unstick their brain. Like, and so I hope you guys enjoy hearing this behind the scenes of both of ours. And I remember thinking my issue was why I couldn't really see myself as a coach is I didn't even know why I had this bad opinion. But when I heard of life coaches, the people back in the day that I knew that were life coaches, this is probably rude. I hope it doesn't come across rude, but they did not have their life together to the level that I would feel like I didn't see any breakthrough in their life. So I'm thinking, how the heck are you going to coach me when,
it's like having like the pudgy personal trainer and you're like, I don't want you, like I want The Rock, or you know, like I want someone who like I want to look like. I don't want, what are you doing, man? So
yeah. And I would have these people come in my office because I would end up helping them, like, and because they had a life coach that couldn't really see the thing and help move them to the other thing. So I didn't realize in my head, I believed the lie that means that I'm like, I'm not, what the heck? I'm not certified to be that. I have my stockbroker's license, God. I have my financial planning license. That was really hard to get. Like, I'm not certified coach. Like, why
but
are
do you
you
remember too when you're like, yeah, I'll just be like a life coach, and I kept like, Jodi, like it's not a life coach. I was like, it's so much more. Stop saying life coach. And like, it was so much more.
Yeah, I was finally embracing that. Okay. Like, I had an epiphany over God's like, you have a bad opinion of life coach. So then I had a breakthrough with that. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll be a life coach. And he's like, I couldn't see the vision he saw for me. And I feel like that's where we're at a lot of times in prophecy. I mean, Craig and I are both very prophetic. And so I think God brought us together because we could see those things for each other a lot. And I think God brings people, they'll speak a word. Sometimes you'll get a word and you're like, yeah, no, I think that person lost their mind. But I encourage you, it just means that you're just still at the lamp into your feet moment and you can't see any further than that. And hopefully this story gives you multiple things also to have grace for other people, because we can see into someone someone else's story. And I mean, literally Craig and I were running at the same time. So I think we had so much grace, because I would even identify, oh my gosh, I'm like Craig with no way. I'm like, but I can't see that. I can't see that. And then I remember I thought, like, I was all upset when he was like, you're not just a life coach. I'm like, you've been trying to get me to even agree that I am a life coach.
And I think that's a good point too, because like, just like when you can't see anything or there's no blueprints, it's easy to like grab onto like what we think it might be. Because I remember like our conversation when you're like, well, like there's like Dave Ramsey does this, but I don't want to do that. And then, but like there's life coaches that do this, and like it's the only, because there's no blueprint. It's something new. It is the unknown. You're literally jumping into something that other people don't exist in. And so in that moment, when you can't grab onto like an appropriate title, you just have to say, okay, God, what am I doing? Like, what is this? And I remember my friend Melissa, I was having a call with her, and she's like, I keep hearing like vision architect, like a vision architect for the kingdom. And like it just stuck. Like when she said that, it was like, ah, like this like moment where like you're like, oh my goodness, that's it. And like God's like, that's your title for this. And then you started mentioning a whole bunch, like you're like, yeah, it's like you're an architect. And you keep building like these blueprints for this stuff that weren't there. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense with the name he brought through a friend. So just letting him be able to name it, because there's so much more freedom in that. So now I get to move in this new title and in this new, I mean, label's a wrong word, but it's like this new thing that I get to jump into and swim around in, versus I'm going to hold on to this. Like I like this is the closest thing I can describe to people. But now when I say, hey, I'm a kingdom vision architect, or I'm chief creative officer, people go, oh, like what is that? Tell me more. But if I was like, you know, I'm just a coach, or you know, I'm a creative coach, and they'll be like, oh, okay, you're one of those people. But now I get to be like, nope, like it's something new. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And same with you. Imagine if you were like, hey, everyone, join Camp Gambini so I can be your life coach. So much, like, because it's so much bigger than that. And yeah, so if you don't allow God to label it, and don't allow God to be able to speak through other people to help you, I don't know, put more tangibility to what he's calling you to, then it's easy to get stuck in that, and it just kind of slows down that wagon train.
Yeah. And one thing that's coming to me, because I'm looking at, I think the other thing I couldn't get out of was I was an entrepreneur, but I'm like, you can't do, like, I keep waiting for God to put the unique thing on hold, and he wasn't. And he keeps bringing new things. I'm like, coffee and dreams with Jodi and friends. I'm like, what is going on, God? I like, you're only supposed to have one thing. And the feedback I would get from people was not always, they didn't know what was going on either. So if you, the best thing I can tell you is I fought it. And my hope is that we will help give you some acceleration of what it looks like and how to push through it, because I argued and fought it because I just didn't know, it was unknown. And so one of the words that keeps helping me is, okay, I'm pioneering this, and it gives myself grace, because I'm just going to tell you, people aren't going to understand it. And one word that the Lord reminded me is, he first gave me crazy pants. And then I just started saying that. Then around the time Craig and I were connecting, it was crazy pants on fire. And it was like, because it almost helped me just go, okay. And I had a friend, Matt, he actually made me a graphic, and it helped me just embrace in that. Okay, I get it. People are, because I was getting all these inputs, and I was starting to go into people pleasing, and well, I don't know. Oh my gosh, people are thinking I'm crazy. And so the Lord just said, yeah, you're crazy pants on fire, and just pull over in a wild place and do it. And that's okay. And there was something I was almost prophesying into myself. I didn't even know what the Lord was saying, but I just heard sometimes words are powerful. And so I would just be like, yeah, because, and my friend literally gave me these pants with, like, it was on fire. And I'm like, ooh, I want that more, because the one thing I noticed is when I pressed into it, the presence of God and the Holy Spirit was so strong. I would even feel my face get hot. Like as the Holy Spirit, I'd start to feel the presence of God in a new way. And so I'm like, well, God, I want more of that. I know that people don't understand, but I want more of that. And so I'm just going to tell you, I love to tell you that everybody's going to get the vision. They're not. Could you imagine when people decided to leave and go to San Francisco and come in like the covered wagons and go, hey, we're going for gold. People then thought they lost their mind. They left the place they lived and they are going out into the unknown and camping and all of that. And so that was a visual God gave me for a really long time. You're in your covered wagon. Like, okay, and it helped me understand, okay, not everybody's going to understand. And he goes, Jodi, but look at that. More and more people ended up doing it back in the gold rush. Because I live here in California, not very far from where a lot of gold was actually found. And so he would give me, and I think I heard some history with that. And so he would give me that. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm a modern day, going for the gold rush, but it's a different kind of gold rush. And he said, look at the first ones, Jodi, the first ones that's where the name Pioneer even came from. More people kept coming, but can you imagine the first people, when you read those first people that chose to do it, people thought they belonged in the crazy bin. I mean, truly, like why are you giving up everything and leaving? Now we look at it and we're like, Pioneer, yeah, get in a covered wagon, because we know the end result. So if you can go, okay, I'm in the beginning of what somebody like in those old days, and I, like other people are going to follow behind me, but God needs me to do it, because no one's going to follow if no one goes out into the unknown. Like that's what the cover wagon to me looked like. It's like you're going into the unknown country. Like there was no trail. They blazed the trail to get their wagons to those places. There was no road. There was no anything. The people that were pioneering it had to bulldoze the road, right? They made it, their covered wagons probably falled over 500 times and they had to pick it back up. They put a lot of things happened in the middle of it.
Yeah. And just like that journey too, like when God calls us into something new, it's just because he asks us to do something doesn't mean like the road is perfect, or like we're never like it can be messy and clunky, and we'll make mistakes and stub our toes and trip and fall, and there's gonna be broken wagon wheels, and like there's things that will happen, but in that process, God is always with us, which is awesome. That's something really important to remember. Because like if you're like Jodi said, like walking around with a lamp and you can't see much, or you're traveling in an area where there's no road and you're just going, even though people keep saying you're crazy, and God asked you to go there, like he is always with us and he'll be there to help us, which is so comforting. Like remember uh like the first or second session that Hannah and I had, and you showed up and you're like, okay, so I want you to show me like these financial things and these statements. But I really feel like God's asking me to like, we're just gonna go over these like 3 chairs and we're gonna start going into fear. I don't know where we're going. Like I feel like God wants it. And for the first year, we didn't even talk about money. Like nothing came up about that whatsoever. And you're like, yeah. And then so let's ask Holy Spirit what we're doing now, and like pray into this. And here's this verse that came up. And then like it was a complete opposite of everything that we thought it was going to be. And then it turned into this, and it helped you see what you carry and then what he wants you to bring to people. And it allowed us to have breakthrough into those areas that he needed to work on us, so I can grow what he wanted me to step into. And then Hannah could start dreaming and doing the stuff that she wants to. And then we can create this environment for our kids. So it turned out like, oh, it actually starts here and then you do this, versus what the world says, which is where you start here and then all of this comes later. And so, yeah, in the journey, you'll just start discovering things. You'll be like, oh, like I didn't think it was supposed to be done this way, but actually doing this way is so much better. And great, I'm gonna do this. And yeah, it's awesome. And then all the stuff that we get to do for those people who come behind us, then we can then say, hey, this didn't work out so well for us. This did. Like, and then we can actually help people come up faster. Now that we've like blazed the way forward, now we can be like, okay, here's all the signs, and we'll put up all this stuff, and like, yeah, beware of boulders.
Don't go
here.
over that hill.
Don't eat these berries. Like, just keep going.
Your covered wagon is gonna get caught, you know, it's gonna flip over. Don't go there. But yeah, I remember that. And I think what continued to help me be open to it was those moments. I remember where I was like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I just heard the Holy Spirit screaming in my head to say something about ask if I think how God speaks to people, and the Havilah Cunningham. And I remember I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that. I think I asked Hannah a question and it just, woo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't, but the Holy Spirit literally by one step at a time goes, okay, say this, say that. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's crying. What? But it was, now I've moved past, but that was the developing the trail. I didn't know what the trail was going to look like. And so I want to open it up for some questions and just for Craig to release anything that he wants to release. So I'm going to kind of put a pin in this. I will probably have part 2 at one time. And please, if you guys are watching inside the community, please tell us what your takeaways are. Let's have some conversations with this. But I'm going to open it up. Does anyone have any questions, or even like, hey, I'm going through this. Do you have a suggestion?
I do.
Okay, Brandy, go.
My mom used to take care of everything for me, like everything. And I know I'm in the grieving period, but I mean, is there any suggestions from anybody that could help me? I know I talk to Jodi and just take one thing at a time, because when I get too much on my plate, I get frustrated and then I don't understand things. So is there any advice that anyone could give me?
Okay, Brandy, I'm going to have Craig answer this.
First thing that comes to my mind, like having walked through this with my wife, because her mom passed. This will be the 5th year now, and it is still a process. Like, she still has those down days, definitely less than there were, but just be okay with grieving and be okay with this process and taking things slow. Like, people will give you advice left and right. Do this step, and then do this step, or read this book and do this. And it's all well intentioned, but in that process, you just have to meet God and just say, okay, what are we focusing on today? Or what are we going to grieve with today? Or what are we going to, like, what am I going to sit with you on and work on? So then that way the next day you're able to just continue just to keep working. So my only thing is just be okay with feeling the way you feel and knowing that it's normal. There's nothing wrong with this, and there's nothing wrong with feeling overwhelmed when there's such a huge change. And so just know that you're not alone in this. Not only are there other people, I know even people on here who have gone through great grief, but knowing that God isn't going to leave you on the floor. So if you sit with him, he'll help you continue to move forward. So just be willing to walk through it with him so you can keep moving.
Yeah, because she used to do everything for me and my stepfather. And so he gave me all the passwords and a password saver, and now I'm having to do things and deal with things that she always did because she understood things
Yep.
that I don't. So when I'm a visual person, if that makes sense. So
Yep.
when I'm trying to get something done over the phone and somebody's trying to explain to me, like with my new insurance or um, getting my mom off my bank account, and and just different things like that. And I know I'm going to get together with you, Jody, but like getting online for my unemployment, getting online to look at she did everything for me. And when I go to do it myself, I'm visual, and I'm not saying that God, I know he will help me through it, but I get confused, and then when I get confused because I don't understand something, then I get frustrated, and then that's
Yeah.
one of I call them devil triggers, because then it throws me into anxiety. It throws me into depression. It throws me
Yeah.
into anger. It throws me into rage. And I mean, it's a different testimony for another time, but I did have a very, very, very bad blow up at the lake with a couple young gentlemen. And it's because I was dealing with my own frustrations. And I'm sorry. I'm living in fear because I'm thinking, what if I can't do this on my own? I pick up the phone to call my mom for help, and then I realize she's not there, and I have to be an adult and do this on my own. And I just get to the point, I know, just do one thing at a time, get my grieving period over, but there's stuff I have to get done right now that she would normally do, and I just feel overwhelmed.
I totally know that, Brandy. And the Lord gave me a visual, a couple of things. First, when you're walking through a loss of something, a person or anything else, a loss of a season, I think that, and I can speak to this, I lost my dad at 18 years old, and people don't know what they don't know. Okay. You don't get over it. You walk through it. And so the visual of walking through what the Lord just showed me is I don't know if you've ever been in a snowstorm, but my first time ever in a snowstorm was in North Dakota. I did not know what a snowstorm looked like. I mean, I live here in California, and it literally was white everywhere, pouring down, driving on snow and not even being able to feel it. And and you don't know what to do. You can't stop. You can't go through. And but you just keep going. And like, so when I still get in a snowstorm, that I feel like, oh, but I know I can't stop. If I stop, no one can see me behind. I know I have to just navigate through and talk to the Lord. And the picture I kept getting, and I think we talked about this yesterday in the group coaching, is I keep seeing God saying, just take his hand. The answer is he's there for you, and he's going to guide you through the next step. And I think this is for every person, because we're talking about an unknown season, and this is a season of processing through a new season without your mom here on earth. She obviously is relocated to heaven, and it's a hard season. But I feel like the Lord is saying that he's showing me this visual, Brandy. There's those moments where when you feel overwhelmed, you're in that snowstorm and you're like, oh, like that's how to this day, my whole stomach goes to a pit. I want to panic when I end up in it. And then I hear the Holy Spirit go, remember this? Okay, don't put your foot on the brake. Don't, like, because I did that and I ran into a snowbank. It was a bad situation. And so if you've never driven in snow and been in a massive snowstorm, and I feel like that is what a lamp unto your feet season, one step at a time. So give yourself grace to go, okay, I'm still in this. like when I hit the bank, my angels must have been on overload because I didn't get damaged. I was really shook up. And then I had to just go, okay, I can do this because I got to keep going through it. There's no way to get to the other side. I'm going to freeze out here. And if I don't keep moving, my car will literally get buried in snow. So I got my wheels back up, and I felt like the Lord was saying, I don't know if that picture helps you, but I just sit with that for a little bit, because I felt like he was saying you are a super visual person, and just even recognizing, okay, I'm in, okay, I might have hit a bank, like you were saying, when you went to Lodi Lake and some anger, but he's going to get you right back on, and then you'll get to start it, and you're going to keep moving through it. So thank you, Brandy, for that question. And Craig, was there anything else you wanted to add to it?
Just like, what is your current support system? Because I know it was a similar situation with my mother-in-law, because she did everything. So my father-in-law was like, so like, luckily, like she had put everything, like all the passwords down and everything before she passed. And then he had a close friend who was able to come in and just help, because he didn't even know how to like log in and check phone bills or anything like that, was, or like even do the laundry. Like everything was super overwhelming, because that was something that she did. And so luckily he had other people he was able just to reach out broken and just be like, I don't know how to do this, I can't current, like this is beyond my capacity at the moment. And they were able to sit with him and not just like do it for him and let him go into those cycles, but help him go through it and understand like the process of like what he'd have to do now as he moved forward. So if there's anyone that you can reach out to, or if there's someone from like church or anything like that, that you can just reach out and open us and be like, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm struggling with, and this is where I just need support, like someone that you can trust to come in and help with that. Because you shouldn't, like, you don't have to do it alone, physically or spiritually. Like you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, I do have Jodi. Thank you, Jodi, that I gonna make an appointment with to help on something. And then my Aunt Kathy that lives back in Indiana said, and then my mom's friend Sandra, because she stepped in and my mom trusted her and helped her with a lot of things, because she was so sick that when she went to go online and do things herself, she would get like stressed out, and then she'd have to go lay down. So there are some people that I can reach out to, but I am going to, but at the same time, you're right, not have them do it for me, but teach me. And then while they're teaching me, I guess I could, like, if it's from Indiana and I'm getting help, I can actually write down what they're saying and reread it, and then it will click, if that makes sense.
Can I make a practical suggestion? If your friend in Indiana would use Zoom, you can set up an account with Zoom for free. And if it's just two people talking like this, there's no limit on how long you speak for. You can then record that conversation like in a video, and then you'd have it back to listen to as well. I know that's a real practical thing rather than like a other thing, but it's just what popped in my mind as something to consider.
Yeah, I could probably do that and then rewatch it. And then if there's something I missed that I didn't write down, then I could write it down, because it's crazy. Some people can talk over the phone. It's like da 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 and figure it out and know because they can see it. But in order for me to figure it out, I have to physically see it and read it.
Especially
you could also
that's a
then
great idea, especially if they share their screen.
I was about to say you share screen as well, yeah. And
Yeah.
also, like I personally, I'm rubbish at taking notes, or if I think I have to, there's extra pressure. But if you know you can just engage with that person in that conversation. And the other thought that pops in my mind as well is then if it's your mum's friend, like that person is a connection to your mum, which is always lovely as well, isn't it? So it gives that sort of bit of community as well.
Yeah, so Brandy, I think you've got a lot. And the good news is we record this and it will be in the community, so you can go back and digest that. So we have a little bit more time. I just wanted to allow anybody else to ask a question. If no one else has a question, then Craig, if anyone is standing out to you that you wanted to connect with or bring anything up, any questions?
Can I ask one super quick question? I wasn't going to, because compared to Brandy, this is really little and tiny and feels very insignificant. That said, it's something that bugs me. This whole thing around titles, like I hate labels. Labels bug me enormously. But then I hear you describe about how God gave you your title, and so I can see power in that as well. And so, like, how important is it to have this title? I mean, you both know a lot about the direction I'm heading in, and so part of like not being put in a box is actually part of my brand anyway. But any thoughts around that would be much appreciated.
I honestly don't think it's 100% necessary to have a title, but if there was something that you were trying to grasp onto, then I would say, okay, God, like, what am I in this? How does this work? Like, what do you, almost like when we went over our superhero names or anything, like, what do you call me? And how does that look through your eyes? I think gives you just that new perspective, but versus having like, you have to have, I'm CEO or I'm XYZ, that to me is nothing compared to like the actual stuff you'll be doing. So as long as you can tell people what you do, then great. But I don't think people absolutely need titles. I just am glad he gave me mine to let me step out of what I was trying to hold on to.
Gotcha. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and what I would say, one thing that came to me, Al, is if you are finding you're in that moment, like me and Craig said, no, I'm not this, then I would encourage you to push in. So it was like for me, for a while, I'm chief dot connector. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, now you're the breakthrough coach. So it's been an ongoing process, but the normal cue for me, no matter if it's a title or not, is if there's something inside you that you're going, no, then I would sit with, we call him Sam, Holy Spirit, and I'd ask him to show you what that is. And for a season, maybe there is something he's wanting you to speak into. Like Craig was like, I am not the brain unstuck. So there was a season where he had to kind of push into that. And so it wasn't about, I am CEO of this, but it was like, oh, I'm the chief dot connector. Okay, that sounds ridiculous. Like I would prefer to say, I've had many other professional titles, assistant vice president, these different ones. What? Chief dot connector? That sounds, again, crazy pants. So I would just say, if you are getting this thing that is like, I'm not, I would encourage you to push into it.
Yeah, I already know what I'm resisting. It's fine. I've written it down. We're not going to go there today. It's okay.
Okay, anyone else? I feel like
Okay. I've got to get off. I've got an important call I just answered. I told them I was in a Zoom meeting to call back in 5 minutes, and it's
Okay.
important. So I wanted to say thank you, Jodi, for inviting me. I feel in the spirit I was meant to be here. Thank you, Craig and Elle, for your advice. Love you all. Have a blessed day.
Blessings, Brandy. Blessings.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. So I know we've gone we're right close to the hour, but I felt like those people that need to get off, no problem at all. But I'm sensing that there might be one or two more people that have a question and you're holding back. So if you have a question, just go for it, or even you're just wanting to ask us our thoughts on something. I'm going to make that silence. Mm-hmm. Okay. Gosh darn it. I can see on the screen. I know there's at least one of you that wants to ask a question.
Some of us already asked questions, so we're not going to ask a second question.
Yeah,
It's all good.
you know how things work for me, so I can see the look in people's face. So that's why it goes against my grain to almost hold my breath and say nothing. So I will give you one last chance at the end, but Craig, I just feel like the Lord might be highlighting or a couple people, and I'm just going to give you freedom to release something corporately or release something that the Lord's highlighting to you, or pray, or whatever you feel led to do.
I probably have what Elle calls my listening face. Oh, you're typing that in? Like
I was literally about to type that. He's got his listening face on. Sorry.
Now every time I start like, okay, Holy Spirit, what are we doing? I hear you from our sessions going like, oh, that's your listening face.
I'm so sorry. And it's really hard to listen when you're giggling, isn't it? I'm so sorry.
Oh, good. Nothing super specific for any individual, just more of like right now, like everyone here has this invitation to jump into something new, whether it's something small or big, it doesn't matter. There's just something new, personally, professionally, spiritually, whatever it is that he is inviting you to jump into. So just take a moment. Yeah, just take a moment and just say yes to the invitation and ask him what that looks like, and just feel free to jump in and explore that. Even if it's something just a small personal moment that he wants with you that's new, there's an invitation there right now to just be able to experience something new with him. So just don't be afraid to jump into that.
I love it. Elle, can you post in the community the how to join into Camp Gambini? I just felt like the Lord said to make sure we put that up there for right now. So if you guys want to copy and paste it, if you have friends that you wanted to invite or anything like that, this is kind of the registration for all things. I post inside this group the Zoom links, all of those kinds of things. And I am, God's kind of putting on my heart that I'm probably going to have some offers just for the community to be involved in any of my coaching that will never go away, which I know is not normal. But so I just want to make sure you guys are on. I don't over email people. I don't over send things out. I know people are kind of used to that, like that's not what I use it for, but it is a way for us to do community and for me to share, and all the information to be found super simple and easy, unlike having to scroll through my Facebook post or go to the right page. So it's just it's kind of camp. It's like, if you want, it's like base camp. So now, Craig, I want you to share and how people can participate with you. And then I just kind of wanted to end with that.
You can, well, I rarely go on Facebook, but you can reach out on Facebook and connect with me. But one of the best ways is if you go to the Brain Unstuck /membership. I have, for my Brain Unstuck platform, I have a membership where every month we meet up with our group call, which actually our first one is next week, which I'm super excited about. And then there's like monthly focus trainings. We have guest speakers, different intensives and trainings and stuff, but it's just a place where people can come and be free to grow with each other in this story that God's called us out to live, and then just what that looks like to actually live your life out in this adventurous, imaginative life that he wants us to live. And so I can actually put it in the thing. And then everyone who's a part of anything Jodi does gets a discount. So I can post that in the Camp Gambini community. but yeah, that's the best way to just stay in touch if you want to see more of what we're doing over here and all of that stuff. If you feel led to, awesome.
So I hope that you guys all have found a lot of value. I will have this uploaded. So even those of you that were on this live, please join back in, post, let's share our takeaways. Personally, I apologize. There was so much on my plate that literally I was like MIA inside Camp Gambini for about a week. But I want to start having a discussion about our takeaways from this. And even if you have watched any of the episodes of the breakthrough fear, let's start having talks in there. So I will have it uploaded, and I'd love for you to post, even though you probably don't want to rewatch it, but go in there and just share what your takeaways from today were, because I believe that all of the things we share, God uses, and that community, and you're like, oh, I'm not the only one that thinks that. So I thank you all for being on for 90 minutes and being part of the very first of every single month. It will be the second Wednesday of the month. So mark your calendar, save the date if you want to join in person, but we will always have them uploaded, I'll say within 24 hours, because sometimes with my life, as much as I try to do it, it takes a little bit of time for it to upload from Zoom, and then I'm on to something different, and life kind of is pants on fire somewhere else. So sometimes it'll take me till the end of the day. And if you didn't see it and you want it, send me a message. It actually will help, because some of you in here know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I thought I posted that. So you'll never, if you're like just dying to see it, send it, like that's probably Holy Spirit saying, hey, Jodi, you didn't upload it. So don't ever think you'll hurt my feelings. It actually excites me when people are like, I really wanted to see that again. So we will be bringing a different guest every single month in here, and this is public. So invite your friends. I am planning to do like a Facebook event in the future where I'll have everything in there so you guys can share it. I will have the Motivational Mondays and the Throwdown Prayer Thursdays in there too, just to remind people, because I just want people to not feel alone. Because as Craig and I were sharing our story, the Lord brought a small group of people, but I know what it feels like to be that person in your covered wagon all by yourself, and your wagon just dumped upside down, and you're like, I just want to go back to where I started. And I think that we're all in a place like that in one moment, and I just want to be part of helping you come along and say, you can do it. You can go into the unknown, because there's so much out there that God has, and you're not alone. It may be unknown, but we always have him, and he will always. I hope that one of the things that this story, because I said to Craig, I didn't even know why the Lord wanted us to share this part, but as it started to come back and forth, is because look at God. He brought people that we were able to lock arms, and even though we were both stepping into our own unknown season, we were not alone. Hannah was in an unknown season, many people, he's brought so many people, and I was not alone. So you may be in an unknown season, but God does not want you to be a lone ranger, and he does not want you to feel alone and isolate. And so come on into the camp, and we will connect. And it's so exciting to continue to see people in here, and huge applause for Craig. He always brings the fire, and yeah. And so please put comments in. I'm actually going to try to do my very best to get this episode up within an hour or two. So I have something at 12, so it might be more like 1:30, but I'm going to do my very best to have this episode up first, because I would love you guys to put your comments in there and what your takeaways. I notice when people do it, more and more people, it's like popcorn, they grab the popcorn and they share too. So I just want to release a prayer. God, I just thank you right now that just every bit that was released, Lord, that you know exactly which piece and which word needs to be for each person, so that they feel so known and so loved by you, and that they have hope and courage and boldness to keep on this road of the unknown, just step out into the unknown, Lord, but that they're not alone. They're not alone, Lord. So we just thank you. I just bless every single person at the sound of my voice, that you are amazing, and that you are, I just see so many amazing things for each person. So keep on taking your step and don't give up. You might have to take a break, but then get right back up and be fearless. And because there's somebody out there that needs you. So Lord, we just thank you in your mighty name. Amen. Okay, I'm going to turn this off, but